Hey everybody, Bob Adams here. It is the 13th of September 2022. We're having a presentation this evening on taxes and investing. Primarily we're going to talk about some of the changes that are going on in the world here. So here we go. So first of all, our disclaimer: all information, discussions regarding potential windfall gains, events, taxes, and plans are for educational and entertainment purposes only. MaxPlans for Life, Inc., Rocket Enrich, LLC, and all affiliate companies, representatives, associates, or employees are hereby held harmless and disclaim any results coming from this or future events regarding tax implications and strategies. Effective and established tax planning needs to be done with the licensed professionals of your own choosing. So we're going to talk about changes, okay? Because there's so many things that have gone on since our last conversation that I'm just like I said, I'm looking forward to it. But tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. Okay, first of all, Tony's going to be here. He's here now with us, and he's going to give us the opportunity to be able to ask him questions instead of coming in with a format of what he wants to share. So we're going to dedicate 30 minutes of this particular time to be able to do this. Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Also, I'm going to be using the Q&A, I think, later on to be able to handle it. And I haven't played with it before. It was just something that was introduced to me today. But the instructions for that, if we do go to it, is in the queue. If you're running your computer app, there'll be an option that says Ask Questions. Just click on it. For those of you on your phone, just hit *6. It's supposed to show up on my screen here to be able to see who's done what. But at this point in time, it doesn't seem to be working. But we'll figure it out. Okay, so we're using the system for the later portion tonight as we go into our webinar a little bit more. Now, before we get started, I have somebody I want to introduce you. Keena, could you go ahead and hit *6 and come on board, please?
Can you hear me, Bob?
I got it. All right, hang on a second, folks. This is Keena. She is here to assist you with any questions you may have about MaxPlans or Rocket Enrich. She is our senior affiliate. We do have other affiliates, which I'll be introducing to you at another time. But I wanted to have a moment just for her to say hi so you can hear her voice, and you'll get to know her better as we go along. So, Keena, it's all yours.
Thanks, Bob. Hi, everyone. As Bob said, I'm Keena Bilal. I'm a fellow MaxPlan member and senior affiliate, and I bring over 26 years of management and administrative experience, and I'm here to help you. Consultations are free, and I'm happy to talk with you, give information, and answer questions that you may have. Bob will give you my referral link to set up an appointment, and I look forward to speaking with you. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you very much. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because sometimes my schedule just doesn't open up a heck of a lot for appointments. And Keena is really sharp. She understands everything that we're doing, and that gives us an alternative connection to be able to continue on answering things. All right, so on that note, we're going to stop here at the moment, and we're going to have Tony come on board. So, Tony, if you want to come on board. Now, folks, here's how it's going to work. If you have a question, if you want to ask Tony, then just go ahead and hit *6. If it's too loud in the background, I'll have to mute you, but we'll just go from there. Tony, you want to get started?
Yeah, can you hear me pretty good?
Yep, yes, great. You sound really good.
Excellent. So let me give you guys just a little bit of something before we get into questions, because I'm still getting a lot of emails and feedback on people not understanding the markets. So you guys, look, the market is divided into two. You have the West and you have the East. And in a lot of ways they're connected. But you have China that's trying to use the biggest populations on the planet that try to create their own market and become the consuming market of the world, which the United States holds that title. Nobody's coming close to beating that. All right? So I'm getting a lot of emails from people saying, hey, look, Russia and China are getting together, and they're going to – you guys, they've already tried this. It's called the BRICS. And it was supposed to go against the U.S. dollar, the Trilateral Commission. And it didn't work. And so if you look at their demographics, their populations are getting smaller and smaller. That's why Russia made the move that they made on Ukraine. Remember, after 1991, they lost 250 million people out of their economic union. And in Vietnam, remember, we separated Russia and China. We got China to come on our side, or not on our side, but they were neutral. They weren't a strategic partner to the USSR anymore. But everybody's like, oh, my God, look, you've got this war going on, and Russia and China, they're going to build their own type of SWIFT system. Yeah, good luck. Russia makes about $2 billion a year, or $2 trillion a year. All right? The state of Florida makes more than Russia. The state of California makes more than Russia. The state of New York, I can go on, 13 different states. So this idea that Russia and China are getting together and they're going to build this massive market, you miss all of Australia, Japan, the United States, Europe, Central South America, Africa. That's where our markets are at. All right, so they're not winning at anything. I know the news out there is different, and it's just like a baseball team. You always want to be positive for the team that you're rooting for, right? That's all it is. That's what propaganda is all about. Russia's getting their asses kicked, even if they win the war in Ukraine, which I still project that they will. But they're getting their asses kicked. They're getting drained. They're going against modern weapons with a country that doesn't have a modern military. So you can imagine if Russia went against a modern military with modern weapons. I mean, it would literally have their asses handed to them. China can't do better than Russia. China's not a better military than Russia. So that's the position they're at. How the cookie crumbles, how it flows, and all that stuff. It depends on the attitude and how aggressive is the West going to be. Because the opportunity that they missed in 1991, which was to sew up the world and open up trade with everybody and make sure nobody can compete against those markets, they missed that opportunity. That opportunity is coming down the road again. So, can the West do it? That's what you're looking at. If you're from an empirical point of view, at the top, what's Putin looking at? What's Xi looking at? What's the United States? Doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. Does not matter. And that's what we're looking at. So, just so you know, this has been tried before. So all these questions that I got in the last day on the articles about creating a new currency between Russia and China, or a SWIFT system, and they're going to use their currency it will not affect the West. In fact, they will hurt themselves because that's how they dislodge themselves from the West. And they're not about to do that. In fact, they're worried about the United States industrializing and all our jobs coming back to the United States. We're trying to build, doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat, they have different ways of doing it for sure, but they're trying to rebuild industry, bring it back to the United States, and be self-sustained that way. That global order that was around before, same people, but it's the way that it works. It's a different vehicle. It's going to be a different vehicle. And with that, Bob, you open up the questions and have people start asking.
Okay, folks, here's your chance. So hit *6 on your phone system, and if it gets too loud in the background, I'm sorry, I'll have to mute you. But who wants to go first?
My name is Chester Ehrig, and thanks for the program. Tony, thanks for what you shared on one of your last deals about where your information comes from. It was exciting. My question is concerning Warka. Are they back on board, or can we connect with them? If so, how? What's happening there? Thank you very much.
They're not. Yeah, and thank you for the question. They're not back on board, but Warka, remember, Warka is a Sunni bank. It's a Sunni family, and the Shia want to control it. So there's a fight going over who's going to control it. Nobody wants to destroy it. Nobody wants to get rid of it. They've got their own insurance policy, just like we have here, where the currencies are backed, and that's all it is. In the end, not the institution of Warka, but how it's going to function is still in the hands of the CBI. And I have complete confidence in the CBI because that's one of their number one banks. So they're not nothing's about to get shut down. Nothing's about to, and that's where they're at. That's the reality is where they're at.
Just
How
also,
about go ahead.
Charles, one more note on that too, okay? The bank itself has one main branch, which is still open in Baghdad. It does not do any customers at that particular point, but they have a lot of land that's invested in their investments there. And so structure-wise, they still are there. They're just not functioning at the moment. And so when they get through going through what they're going to go through, then I suspect we'll hear something then.
So currently, right now, there's no way of really communicating with them via email like we used to be able to, or even see our account, correct?
Yeah, correct. I tried contacting CBI and a few other routes to see if I could get access to them, and I can't get anybody. The source that I have been working with was a manager for one of their branches, but they closed down all the branches, so he went to work for somebody else.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Wow. So we really do. There's no way to kind of project when this might turn around.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for Warka it's not, but remember.
Yeah, for Warka I know.
For Warka we don't know. You know, and I'm in the same boat as everybody else. I have a massive account with Warka. You know, and I bought stock with Warka, use them as a brokerage for 6 years. So.
Well, yeah, you were talking about that early on when you encouraged us to look at the stock market.
Yep. I invested heavily in the banks and into just watch the companies that performed the best. People are like, what do you project? I don't project anything. I simply watch the market and let the market pick for me,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Sure, no worries.
All right, who's next?
Bob?
Yes, Martha, go for it.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Hey, Tony. Can I read? Well, I'd like to read, and this is from one of your favorite gurus, I believe, who's been around for at least 12 years. So don't shoot the messenger. But this concept, of course, is out there often, today, yesterday, whatever. So can you help us understand why this is or is not a valid point? And that being, Iraq is in no position to float the Iraqi dinar because they are 90%, 95%, whatever number you want to use, dependent on oil. And until they pass laws, diversify their economy, the central bank will not float the dinar. This is going to take months or even years because they're in a position, before they're in a position to begin to raise the value. What is wrong about that statement?
Yeah, it's completely backwards because what they need to do if they want to diversify is to add value to the currency.
So that's what needs to come first instead of, as we read at times, that the economy has to somehow...
No, they need to add value to the currency. Always remember this, Martha, that the currency is artificially at its rate. It's an artificial rate. And they manipulate it by printing so much currency. All right? So the way that they get the value back up is to reduce the note count. That's one. Number two, if they want to diversify, they need to reduce their note count. Start adding value to their currency, and that way international markets, when they get into the SWIFT system and trade, people will take their currency seriously. So, but you said something very key, though. 90% of their economy is based on oil, petroleum products. And so that means they have a great and fantastic future, right?
It would seem so.
The world's not about to give up its oil. Correct. I know there's people pushing for solar and all that stuff, and that's great. I don't disagree with any of that. But that's not about to happen, all right? The markets are going to change for sure. But petroleum products are not going to go away. Maybe let's say 50, 60 years on down the road, there'll be less and less cars using petroleum. But like I said, the jacket that I have in my closet is a oil-based product.
Correct.
Yeah. So they have a product that's not going to its importance is not going to go away. So the question is, when do they get in the market? When do they diversify, and how do they diversify? And it's adding value to the currency. And to do that, they have to pass banking laws, which they have been. Believe it or not, Iraq is actually they've complied with everything. They are SWIFT compliant. They're 100% SWIFT compliant. I don't right now. I don't know what is on the other side, what they're looking at that would slow them down. I'm pretty sure it's a good reason, because the markets are shifting and stuff like that. I know they picked what markets they want to be in, and they're not screwing around that way. The other thing is I talked about is that you have Sunni and Shia, and people think there's some type of difference between the two. They want something different. That's not true. Both of them want to add value to the currency. But both sides, Sunni and Shia, want to control the currency. So there's no conflict there. There's none. The biggest conflict Iraq would have is coming from the West on being compliant so they can participate in our system, and that will make them, that will diversify them. But the person, and that's fine, they can be wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. You know what I mean? But it's not a sin. But his opinion is completely opposite of what they've been talking about, and completely opposite of what it is they need to do. You have to spend money to make money, right, Martha?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So they can't go the other way. They can't diversify without a currency. It doesn't make any sense. Like, how do you do that?
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Sure.
Good question, Martha. All right,
thank
who's
you, Martha.
next?
Hello, Bob.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. And Tony. Hi, Tony. Hey,
How you doing?
maybe this is a little off base, but the last couple of days they've been talking about Visa getting into tracking sales of guns, ammunition. Is this going to be part of? They want to go to a cashless society and they want to be able to track things. Is this going to be a real deal, or is this kind of a show for right now?
No, when I was a kid, right, I was in the Republican Party. I still am. But what they did when I was in high school is we would go to Phoenix and we would do a mock-up House, and then we would do a mock-up Senate, and then we would vote. And one of the things, and it was, the whole thing was designed to help us learn on how the government works, where its limits were, okay? So what they did is they set it up. They're like, this is what we're going to do. You're going to be the House, and we want you to vote. We want you to get rid of guns. And let's see what happens. And so we did. We voted. We're gonna repeal the Second Amendment. The Senate passed it. The president, the vice president, everybody was on board. And then it got to the states. And then the states said, hell no. The states have their own constitution. They're not, the federal government doesn't have that type of power.
Okay.
All right? So nobody's getting rid of anybody's guns. Now, you can go to a state, right? You go to California, or you go to Illinois, you go to New York, and they can't get rid of the Second Amendment, but they can restrict a little bit, can't they? That's it. But they can't get rid of the Second Amendment. So the way that, the genius behind our forefathers is how they compartmentalize things where the three branches are separated. And then you have each and every state is like a country unto itself. So nobody's getting rid of anybody's guns. So let's say the pipe dream of all pipe dreams for Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, they got the House, they got the Senate, they passed laws, and they try to get rid of guns, right? It's like, we're going to outlaw guns. They can't do it. It's impossible. They don't override state constitution or legislation. So that's what we found out. We couldn't do it. We literally could not get rid of guns. So let's knock that out. Number two, I don't think I've ever used my credit card to pay for a gun my entire life. So that ends that tracking idea, right?
Yeah, and
go ahead, guys.
That could be the start of tracking other things that is the current administration seems to want to control a lot of everything that's going on. I just think they're starting here and they're seeing how it works.
Well, just remember, people get caught up in the 4 years that they're in, all right? Remember when Bill Clinton was in office and the world was going to come to an end? And then Pat Robinson would come on TV and talk about the stickers that were on the back of stop signs and that was part of the UN and how they were using that as some type of way they're going to invade the United States. And then the cashless society was going to come in. Am I the only person that remembers this stuff? It's been going on. Yeah, it's been going on since the 60s.
That's true.
So again, it's they get people riled up. That's it. That's it. If you look at the reality, remember what adds value to our currency. So a lot of people say, well, the U.S. dollar is a fiat currency. They're full of shit. I don't care who says it. I don't care if Jesus Christ comes back and says it's a fiat currency. He's full of shit. All right? Our currency is backed by our $99 trillion economy. So when you go out a bank and you go get a loan, they don't just hand you money, do they? You got to have some type of collateral, right?
Yep.
So when you present that collateral, they create money with that collateral. That money is created for you. That's how the law works. That's how it works. Yep. So where does our money come from? It comes from the wealth on people getting loans. How these cheese dicks in New York, all these guys that have these radio, I don't want to say any names because I don't want to start any battles, how they get away with saying the shit that they've said in the last 40 years is beyond me. Here's the key to people like that. They know you don't know. And I've said that a million times. That's it. They're taking advantage of you not knowing. And it's not because you're stupid. That's not your job. You know what I mean? You didn't how would you learn how to go out and where does the dollar come from, all that stuff? It's a complex process. And that's all it is. They're winding you up. When are you going to get sick and tired of that? When are you going to get sick and tired of sitting on the edge of your seat waiting for this whole thing to end? There's no country on the planet that has what we have right now. In the history of the world, nobody has what we have right now. And everybody's paranoid about it. Like they read negative article after negative article after negative article after negative. All this shit that they said was going to happen in the 60s never came about, but there they are reading the same shit again over and over and over and over and over. It's like a drug or something. So the main point is that the value of our currency comes from our economy, all right? But there's also value added to it, supply times velocity. So whenever you and I exchange a dollar, that adds more value to that currency because that currency is popular, right? If $1 is being exchanged between 20 people and it's used over and over and over again, you and I are going to fight for that dollar. But when you start going digital, you cut that velocity, and this is a proven fact because we've tested it. You cut that velocity by 75%. People who don't have cash and they use credit card, they don't spend as much. So it's in other words, you can go to the store, you can spend money at Walmart, you can spend money at Circle K, you can but what happens when you go to the swap meet? What happens when you go, you start to see things start to be limited. Like I was in Eastern Tennessee, came across these Amish guys on the side of the road selling vegetables and stuff. They're not going to be swiping my credit card, bro. So, that's the thing that people don't consider. They're intertwining a bunch of stuff. Like if I was to talk to you, sit here one-on-one and talk to you about currency, it would always go off to something else because it's being attached to the bigger picture, right? The reset, the Great Awakening, the reset. None of it's true. None of it. No, I don't care how, you had Francis Fukuyama and these top philosophers and economists and political scientists talking about how the end of history was supposed to come when USSR fell, and it never did because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it's not because they're stupid; they're smart, but they don't have the right to do those type of predictions. Neither does some guy holding the Bible somewhere saying, it's the New World Order and it's all right here. None of it's true. The United States is is a trade empire. And you have the other side claiming that we're strictly globalists, and it's a pedophile ring. It's a trade empire. That's it. Nothing more than that. So when you show me where our trade is going to start to shrink, I will start to look at where the dollar is going to get hurt. So that's what you would have to. So if you were going out and you're reading articles like, okay, where is our trade going to start shrinking here? It's not. So the dollar is secure. The dollar,
no matter what they say, I don't see it contracting at all.
What's that?
I don't see that it contracting at all, no matter what you watch on television or read online and stuff like that. I see our trade is still doing well, but it seems like they're playing more on emotions and not telling the truth or the half-truths and what's actually going on out there.
Well, take from my perspective, okay? Remember that I've been following and studying conspiracy theories, Catholics versus Protestants, and everybody's looking out the window today of all the media that we have, right? Read it on cell phones and our computers, and it's nothing different today that's been going back in those days, except for those when that started, they didn't even have the printing press out yet. Mm-hmm. Then when the printing press came out, they printed the Bible. Right, and that really kicked it into high gear. Then you had, all it did was expand on how propaganda can be thrown out there, and so you're at the apex of it. That's all it is. But it is absolute garbage. It is filth. It's all of it, from the left, from the right. They stir up the people. So you're not going to go down and vote unless you're emotional about it. If you don't give a crap, you're not going to vote. They know this. So everybody that's not well.
They know that very
everybody,
well.
Yep. Everybody that's not in your party is a devil worshipping child molester. End of story. That's how they do it. That's all it is. If you really go back and you look at the news, and then you go look at the little bit more darker sites, have you been following Alexander Dugin and how his daughter was killed?
No.
Okay, I won't go into that realm because you'd have to know who he is, but he's one of the guys. Yeah, some of you know who he is. All right.
Oh yes. But hey, Tony, we got like 5 minutes left. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Let me. I'll at the end of this. I'll try to answer those questions some more. Let me get some more questions in. Okay.
Yeah, Julie, I see you on here. Go ahead.
Thanks for everything.
Dave got some questions.
What? Not Julie?
Dave
ahead,
has
Dave.
some questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
There. I got a question that been in this for 2004. ExxonMobil or Rig Welder helped me get into this. I read an article back then that they said by 2035 that Iraq would be providing 75% of energy to the whole world.
No, that's not true.
That was when I first got into it. But why are they with the EV and all this stuff? How's that going? Is they pushing towards that? To me, it looks like the whole thing's going that way.
No, Iraq's not going to provide the world 75% of the world with energy products. So whoever wrote that article was wrong.
So right now they're doing about 11%, I believe, isn't it, Tony?
Maybe 11% of OPEC.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of it's coming from Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the way you look at the way they're doing the EVs and all this stuff, this electric stuff and all this, trying to push things a different direction, I think it's going to crash personally myself. But how does that look toward the future? I mean, it's
for you mean for the dinar, and it's the market's not going to crash for energy. And that's the reason they have to. Why you and I are invested in the Rocket Dinar, because if they're stuck in the oil industry and it's just that one angle, and they're attached to the dollar, they're not going to survive. They just won't. And then so what do they have to do? That's why. What do you think they want to diversify so much? And that's what that conversation I was having with Martha. The only way they can diversify is add value to their own currency. That's it. That's it. So, and you and I are sitting on their currency. But I don't see any scenario. Just so you know, I don't see any scenario where Iraq is providing 75% of the. You know, the world is becoming more isolated. We're all becoming more, dependent on ourselves only. More isolated. Our markets are hard to attack because the United States, 13% of our economy has to do with doing business with other countries. It's only 13%. We only depend 13%. The rest, we do business with Canada, Mexico, and ourselves. And that sounds strange. It's like, well, how can we have, how can we be diversified, have the most markets? Well, everybody's following that model right now.
Well, I look at the way that every country's pushing this electric vehicles and all this and that and that and that. People, I can see people are sucking into Iraq. They're wanting to move there. They want to get there. Once they get their government straight or whatever, and it's to me it's kind of making sense that somebody made some sense there. I don't know. Maybe it's my default. I'm not intelligent about it, but
Iraq's it's only one place that has oil. You have the northern seas. The United States has more oil than Iraq. We probably have more oil in Alaska than Iraq does. So you have Russia has all the oil they need forever. So I don't see that scenario playing out. You'd have to find that article if you could. That could make more sense of it if you ever find it and send it to me.
Well, it's been I was working at a gas plant, ExxonMobil, doing construction 2004, 2005, and I snuck in the supervisor's computer and got it out, printed it out, and started reading stuff, and that's where I got it. I'll probably never find it again, believe me.
Yeah, probably not.
They were pissed off because the computer never quit printing. It just kept on printing. They come and found me and said, Dave, what the hell did you do? I'm like, but
all right, guys, we are going to have to call a close to this question and answer period at the moment. We have got the rest of the presentation to go because I got a lot of changes I got to tell people about because this is important. So we're going to bump it. Yeah, Tony.
Yeah, let me do this just so you know. Mm-hmm. If you got time after you're done with the presentation, I can do some more questions if you have time.
Yeah, Ron and I will make sure we clear enough room for you.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
We're gonna jump now into what I have for our presentation because there's a lot to talk about. First of all, I don't want to hear any boos or hisses or anything else because of the picture on the screen, okay? But we do have some tax changes that were enacted last month that I need to have a conversation with you about, and then I need to tell you also about a couple of other items that aren't out to the public at the moment. So we're going to discuss those as well. All right, so let's get started here. First of all, current changes that were included in the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, a lot of people didn't understand what that was all about, but primarily it was about climate change, health care, and corporate taxation. So there's some new provisions on these measures that may impact some people's tax bill, but not a heck of a lot. And there's a reason why. So here's the changes. Tax breaks for clean energy for homeowners. They've added some really great things here. Some tax credits that were extended to 2032 for incentives for them to install solar or wind power systems. And eligible homeowners you get a whole 30% tax credit. That's extended until 2032, which is going to go to 26% up till 2035. Tax breaks are also available for energy-efficient water heaters, heat pumps, and vac systems. Now, guys, this has been around for a long, long time. I remember doing taxes 20 years ago when these were available. But now they're really emphasizing heavily to be more energy efficient as much as possible. So these rebates can total up to about $14,000, and they're effect now. So the new rule that was signed in is applicable to this year. One other item that talked about, too, was electric vehicle rebates. Now, this has been going around quite a while as well. There's always been an opportunity to further the car industry. But the new credits have been extended till December of 2032. So within certain price limits, the credit's available for a clean vehicle, including hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which we don't see a lot of on the road. The vehicles must be assembled in North America, priced under $80,000 for trucks and SUVs, and $55,000 for all other types of cars. Qualified buyers of new vehicles receive a $7,500 credit at the time of purchase, and a new $4,000 tax credit will be available for purchase of qualified electric cars. Now, something else they did, which is kind of new, okay, they put a cap on it. So it's only available if your income is under a certain amount. So if you make too much money, you don't get these. You're going to see that pop up in all kinds of places in the new Democratic idea of how this is supposed to work. Now, the credits are available immediately beginning in 2024. Qualifying vehicles must meet additional requirements for American-made components, including the batteries, which right now we're getting those from outside. Now, one other thing, guys, I want to talk about, it jumped ahead there, but they're also going to give you a credit for used cars. So if you buy a used electric vehicle, there's a possibility for a credit there. Now, just isn't that good news? All right, here's another one. The Affordable Care Act also is going to offer subsidies for health insurance, which was expanded after the COVID-19 pandemic. It's going to go till the end of this year. Then that's going to stop. Now, they also extend some other subsidies until 2025. It's expected to benefit about 13 million Americans who are buying health insurance at the moment, and they're also going to start managing prescription drugs for seniors. So this new law allows Medicare to bargain for lower drug prices, to negotiate things here. Beginning in 2023, this will only apply to 10 specific drugs, but the list will eventually be expanded to 20. By the way, they have a new poly pill that's going to be promoted during this time frame, which consists of aspirin, a blood pressure, and something to reduce, oh God, there goes my mind, other items. Anyway, it's going to be a single pill. It's going to handle a lot of different things. That's part of that stuff they're trying to get done. This is intended to reduce the cost of medications for Medicare beneficiaries. Now, another provision limits Medicare beneficiaries' drug costs of $2,000 per year beginning in 2025, with some reductions taking effect in 2024. Now, the law goes into effect for 2023. Now, if they don't give them, they're going to require that there's a rebate that comes from the producers of all these medications. And in addition, starting in 2023, the Inflation Reduction Act provides seniors with free vaccinations. Okay, let's talk on this one here, because a lot of people have sent me emails and inquiries about the billions of dollars they want to put into the IRS. I know that in the last audio that Tony and I did, I kind of expanded this one, so I want to make sure everybody understands what it really is all about. So this legislation is going to put another $80 billion into the IRS over the next 10 years. What they don't know, what they don't talk about openly, is the fact that the majority of the people who have been working there have been there a while. There was a limitation on new hires, and about 50% of the people that are there are going to retire within the next decade. So a lot of this money is going to be used for new hires to bring them in, and they definitely have to upgrade their computer systems. They're still using COBOL from 1960s. And that's how come a lot of people, their tax returns are still being processed at a year and a half later. They simply are way out of touch with what's going on. And their comment is they want to increase enforcement actions, and so a lot of people look at that and say, okay, they're going to show up at my house and beat my door down. That's not the case. That's not what's going to happen. Also, they want to do a 15% corporate minimum tax. So they're going after the big guys. A critical provision applies to U.S. corporations with more than $1 billion in profits. Now, while these companies are subject to a 21% corporate tax rate under the current law, many pay less or no federal taxes. So effective on 2023, a new minimal 15% tax will apply based upon the annual income. They're not letting them take all the deductions. They're going to base it on their income, which is going to draw a lot of money out of the systems. So corporations can still claim certain credits to reduce their tax liability, and this law includes a special exemption for subsidiaries for private equity firms with annual profits exceeding $1 billion. And private equity firms that own multiple subsidiaries with profits exceeding $1 billion are exempt from the 15% tax. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to ask you a question. Did you see anything in there that affected you? anything at all? No, you didn't. And here's why. There's two things that you need to be aware of in these new tax laws that are coming out. One is called the Green Book, which I'm going to cover now, and the other one is called Sunsets, which we'll cover later. So here's what's missing. Okay, notice there's no specific changes in relating to other things because they're hidden inside what they call the Green Book. The proposals included in the Green Book cover a wide range of tax laws, though the impact will be felt mostly by a narrow group of taxpayers. Nevertheless, the changes may be of concern if you meet these criteria. Now understand, when the RV comes to fruition, it's going to move you up. And so it's going to catapult you right into the net they're setting out in front of us. Have adjusted gross income equal or exceeding $400,000 for single taxpayers of $450 for those filing. Remember I told you, I warned you, this is coming. Itemized deductions on your federal tax return. If you're itemizing and you're making over $400 or over $450 if you're married, you start losing those deductions. Well, right now, anything that we put on Schedule A for charities that goes directly to religious, juvenile sports, things along that line, we get 100% write-off, right clean out of the chute. But they want to stop that. They want to put a cap on it. So if you make more than that amount of money, you're not going to be able to write off anything on Schedule A. If you have a current or planned trusts in order to hide some things, they're going to go after those. If you're an owner of a limited partnership, a limited liability corporation, S Corp or C Corp, they're going to add things to it. So let's get into it and let's talk about these tax rates because this is where it gets ugly. There's going to be surcharges on certain high-income taxpayers. I mentioned this earlier, several months ago, that this was a possibility. Well, it's sitting in the Green Book waiting to be brought out and put into play. Under the current law, the highest tax rate that anybody's going to pay is 37%. That's it, okay? And in order to do that, you have to exceed $539, almost $540,000. You know, for married couples, it's $647,850, and for head of household, it's $539.90. Okay, this is where, right now, we don't go above that 37%. But what they want to do is they want to take it to 39.6%, and they want to reduce the applicable income thresholds. So anybody over $400,000 is going to get whacked, and $450,000 if you're married. Notice the differences. Up here, it's clear up here in that 647 area. They want to start sticking it to us at $450,000 at a tax rate of 39.6%. Also, long-term capital gains. One of the things I really like about working particularly in cryptocurrencies is because it's not an ordinary income like our IQD is. Our IQD is stuck and saddled with something that doesn't give us a lot of tax benefits. But this does. This is something for cryptocurrencies. Now, right now, the top tax rate is 20%. But they want to change that. So if you exceed a certain amount of income, you know, $459,750, or $517 if you're married, $488 if you're head of household, $258 if you're filing separate, they want to take that to 39.6, and then they want to add that net investment income tax, which is another 3.8%. So we're looking at a federal rate of 43.4, not counting whatever the state or your county or your city is going to apply in taxes. So you can see this is going to jump tremendously if whatever's sitting in that Green Book is brought out to bear. So also, this is going to get applied on any married couple that makes over $1 million or $500,000 for married filing separately. Now, if enacted, it proposed these changes would apply retroactively. So what does that mean? That means that if it passed at the end of this year, it would apply to this year. I've seen it happen before. I wouldn't be surprised. Here's something else, okay, that's not included in the Green Book. Now, it doesn't address some of the key changes in the tax code that's been proposed before, and these would include the repeal on the cap of Social Securities. Now, right now, when you work for somebody, they take out for payroll taxes to satisfy Medicare and Social Security. When you get to a certain point, Social Security stops. They still keep taking for Medicare. Well, what they want to do is they want to close out that opportunity so that instead of having it stop right there, it would just keep going. So it would be adding more to Social Security. They have a concern about running out. Here's the other one that's ugly. They want to change the gift and estate tax exemptions and the tax rates. So as indicated above, the current lifetime unified exemption right now is being phased out in 2026. So what does that mean to us? Well, we'll talk about that in detail here shortly. SALT limitations. This is not what you have on your table. This is the combination of taxes on your tax return. Now, on your Schedule A, you can usually itemize out the taxes that you pay and be able to reduce it. But since they went to the new standard deduction, Schedule A hasn't been used a heck of a lot. But one of the things they did put into it is if you have more than $10,000 in taxes that you pay, you can't take more than 10. You can carry it forward, but you can't take more than 10. And that's something else that they're going to be discussing and trying to decide what to do with it. So those are the ones that are in the Green Book. Now, when I say the Green Book, essentially what I'm telling you is if they manage in this upcoming election to get control, if the Democrats get it, then they're going to open up the Green Book and they're going to take all these different things that are in there and start to apply them. And that's not good for us. That's not good for us. But a lot of the things they're not going to fight simply because they're going to sunset. So there's no reason to throw anything more into it. So these are laws that are about to expire. So many of the provisions that are included in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was passed in 2017, which was great, okay, are going to die out on December 31st of 2025. So it's important that we start taking a look at and look at the potential impact that that may have on the strategies that we've already created. What's it going to do to us? The key provisions affecting individual taxpayers are set to expire at the end of 2025 include individual taxpayer estates and trust income are currently subject to 39.6%, up from 37%. The income tax rate is going to go up also. And so the 12, 22, and 24s, how they do that is they lower the brackets down. They still only apply that amount of a tax percentage, but they lower the brackets. The unified estate and tax deduction, right now, it's $12.06 million per individual, approximately $24 million if you're married. It's going to get cut in half. It's going to go to 6 and 12. Now, they proposed taking it down to 3. And Bernie proposed taking it down to 1. So what does that mean? That means everything that you have in your estate, even though right now it's really beautiful because we could still die and have 12 million or less and the federal government will get nothing. But at the end of 2025, it's going to drop that in half. And if the Democrats get control, it's going to drop even further. So you need to be aware that that's sitting out there in the front of us. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit quicker here because I know we've got a lot of stuff I got to get covered and give Tony a chance to get back on board. So while taxes are constantly changing, the basics are always the same. They do not change. Now, I've been doing taxes for 31 years. I've seen it swing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the basics has always been there, and here's why. The middle class of the United States is the lifeblood of the whole world economy. People don't recognize that. And encouraging investments and savings keeps the backbone of democracy strong, and taxing the middle income citizens too heavily results in less investing. That's what hurts us. That's what hurts us. So, one of the things I'm going to share with you this evening is something that's called a tax and investment funnel. These are the things that you need to look at whenever you go to do any kind of investing at all. So, here are the 3 things that you do first. First of all, you research things. That way you understand the investment and the risks associated with it. Next, you take a look at what tax strategies are going to be applicable. It's going to depend upon how it's been categorized. And then lastly, how do you acquire the investment? Those right there are the first 3 key things to any kind of an investment at all. And then the tax strategies, the basics, are pretty much all the same in any of them. You identify the tax application, whether it's passive, active, subject to ordinary or capital gains. Are there any applicable taxes like the net investment income or self-employment, and establish how it fits into your financial plans, whether the income for now or later, and then secure the proper steps to implement your tax strategies. So this is a filter. It's a funnel system that I encourage people to use. Now I'm going to show you more details about how that works, and then you're going to understand why. There are some considerations to apply to any personal investment. First of all is the risk level. The risk is defined as the financial terms as a chance that an outcome or investment's actual gains will differ from an expected outcome or returns. You know, guys, actually, our IQD has been a really interesting risk to us. It's been a minimal risk because it hasn't done anything. Age. Will this investment come to fruition in time to meet your desires? Available funds. Do you want to diversify your investments, and how do I do it? And then last, with tax strategies. Do I understand the potential taxes with my investment has an increase? And then finally, the length of the investment. Now, why are those so important? Because if you don't use those to take a look at an investment to figure out how it's going to work in your world, you're throwing darts in the dark. Okay? You're going to be subject to a lot of emotions. Remember, I've always talked about the fear and the greed aspects of investing. And instead of looking at it that way, we want to approach it from a practical aspect. And these should be the filters going into any investment. Now, tax planning, the strategies that work for any of those investments is basically the same. It has never changed. Excuse me. Whether the investment income is taxed as ordinary, short-term, long-term, net investment taxes, the long game is to reduce those taxes or defer them or to eliminate them. Those are the only three choices that we have. That's what we can do. If you try to hide them, then you're going to find yourself in trouble. So you want to comply. You can comply and you can win. So the answers to all that is the same things that we've been showing you. The gifting assignments. Why? Because you're able to diffuse a lot of those funds and parts of your estate and get rid of it to reduce that aspect of them lowering the caps. The Roth will always give you tax-free gains. Nothing else does. And then the CRUT. Now, you've heard me sing this song for years now. These are the three. These are the three. These are the three. What you may not understand is that it applies to any kind of a windfall vein. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Inheritance, cryptos, real estate, it doesn't make any difference. Those three things are the 90% of what's going to be able to reduce and help you with your taxation. This is why I've been telling you all along that the things that MaxPlans brings to the table are vanilla. They're safe. So I'm going to go to a dark screen because I want you guys to see these numbers a little bit differently. So let's take an example. So we've got an investment that costs us $1,000, projected to return $1 million. That's 1,000% gain. And that's essentially what we're playing with in the IQD. So somebody purchased it for $1,000. The value is supposed to be $1 million. In this particular investment, it's an ordinary income, which is what we have at this point in time. They decide they're going to cash it in. So here's the results. They have a taxable event. Okay, they lost 37% to the feds and 13% to the state. That's before what's in the green book is applied. That leaves them with half of it, essentially, to be able to invest. Now, everything that comes off that investment that they put into that $500,000 is taxed again. So it's been double taxed. And their investment, which could have served them for the rest of their life, is now really small or simply non-existent. Now, you look at that same investment, but you put it into a Roth IRA. Okay, now the Roth IRA is a retirement account. It's funded by actively earned and taxed income, and the investment needs to be in the Roth prior to any gain. Now, there are certain requirements to qualify for the Roth. The contributions are limited by age and income. The Roth must be aged required 5 years and withdrawn at 59.5. For those of you who have been attending the webinars for a long time, you know that the option to be able to pull some funds out of your Roth without meeting that qualification does exist. For example, like now, where we've got your first-time home buyer, you're going to be able to pull out $10,000 out of your Roth, whether it's qualified, or it won't make any difference. It'll be tax-free and penalty-free to be able to put in a down payment on your house. That's a good deal. The gain, because it's increased under the umbrella of the Roth, is completely tax-free. In addition, other investments done in the Roth with the revalue gains is also tax-free. And the funds in the Roth can be handed down to heirs tax-free. But the Roth is also considered to be part of your estate, which can be a problem. So planning around estate taxes is also crucial and should be part of your overall financial planning. Now, because the funds coming from the Roth are completely tax-free, they can be used for any which way the owners wish. This is the one and the only way that you're going to be able to get a tax-free return off of any investment. It doesn't matter what it is. And they can use this, whatever they want to do. And they can establish an ongoing investment strategy and leave that investment strategy inside the Roth, even if they were to put in an annuity, okay? And once again, everything would still be tax-free. All right, now let's just say for some reason you aren't able to qualify for a Roth. Well, then the next option is the CRUT. Now, the CRUT is a great post-instant wealth option because a lot of people, if they run into a windfall gain of some kind, they haven't done anything. Now, luckily, all of us, you, me, we've known about this for quite a while, 16 years for me, okay? Being able to do the steps that's necessary to put it into a tax-free environment, it's there. I've got that. It's done. It's over with. I'm all taken care of. But for some people, it's too late. They're too old. They don't have active income or whatever. So the CRUT is the animal that works best. Now, it's an irrevocable trust. It's tended for charities upon the beneficiaries that are passing, and everything that's inside the CRUT is tax-free. What that means is that when you exchange your IQD into the CRUT, it is a tax-free exchange. There's nothing that ever happens with it from there. And you can receive payments out of that based upon the classifications of the investment. So if your investment was IQD, you would still pay ordinary income taxes. But if it was crypto, which, by the way, I've had a lot of guys that have gotten their CRUTs on the idea of using it for their IQD, only to turn around and have to use it for the crypto because they had a great big gain. The trust beneficiaries receive about 5% of the value. That comes out to $50,000 a year for the rest of their lives. And they can invest the entire amount tax-free and only pay the income or the capital gains depending on the type of them, make the payments themselves. Well, upon their passing, the remaining funds are released to their selected charities. Well, they got a write-off on Schedule A as long as we don't have that cap that they're trying to bring to the table for up to 20 years. Okay? It helps them a lot. Now, the CRUT, and I'm going to go through a couple more scenarios on it, is the gateway to everything. It's the most important thing you can possibly do to handle any kind of a surprise. So let's look at the same invested, but they used an annuity with it. Okay, now the CRUT, they go ahead, they drop it in there, they take the funds, and they put it into an annuity. Now, an annuity is a long-term investment that's issued by an insurance company. It's designed to help protect you from the risk of outliving your income. Okay, that's what's most important of all. So long-term health care insurance can be included inside your CRUT paid by the annuity, as well as death benefits. So when you die, your heirs can actually receive. Now, it's going to depend upon your age and your health when you get started. And there's 4 basic types of annuities. There's immediate and immediate variable, deferred fixed, and deferred variable annuities. Now, you're going to learn more about those later on. When creating your CRUT with an annuity, you get to select what type works best for you, and you retain 5% of the original principal. Now, the risk scale is what's going to work best when you figure it out. Fixed annuities, very little risk. Don't have to worry about it. You walk away from it. It always pays you, and you go from there. If you want more, you can always move it into a different type. That's going to be between you and the insurance. One more item that I really like about this is the private foundation option. So you can go ahead and create your CRUT, which moves your IQD or crypto into a tax-free environment, and it's invested. Okay? You're going to share it with 6 different charities of your choosing. That's what it does. Now, one thing you can do, and you've heard me talk about it, is get a private foundation. You don't do that until after the RV because it's going to cost you about $25,000 and take 2 years. But you create that. Then you change your CRUT to indicate the remaining funds go to your private foundation at a later time. That's it. And this would allow perpetual giving while having the family and potential for many generations to reap the rewards of this windfall gain. So the original investment that they got, that was $1,000 they started with, it turned into $1 million, they had 1,000% gain. It gave them out money for the rest of their life. It covered their medical costs. It paid the heirs on their death benefits, and possibly continued for generations. So let's do a real quick review of what the CRUT does. All right. I realize I'm singing the same song, guys. If that offends you, I apologize, but I want you to understand something. This is probably, out of all the instruments that we have available to us, this one is probably the most important one of all. I love the Roth. I love it, but not everybody can qualify. Anybody can qualify for this. It makes no difference on your age except for the term that you'll be able to get the funds out of it. It is a tremendous tool. It's the best tool, and it'll work for the IQD, and it'll work for anything. So it defers and reduces taxes on our investment exchange. It can offer you and your spouse, if they're over 40 years of age, lifetime of income with a very much lower tax rate. It can offer you and your spouse 20 years of income if you're under 40. It can potentially offer long-term health care and death benefits. It can be invested in various options to maintain or increase its value, which means they're all tax-free, meaning all the transactions underneath the CRUT are non-taxable. It gives you remaining funds to set up the 6 charities of your choosing. It can give you remaining funds to your private foundation and maintain your charitable desires once you're gone, and the private foundation can potentially provide income to your heirs and their heirs for generations yet to come. Most importantly, notice the last one. It reduces estate taxes. Any funds that you move over into the CRUT is not included in your estate. Now, I talked earlier that they want to change the caps. They want to take it from 12 million to let it sunset and go to 6, and if the Democrats get control, it'll go to 3. And if Bernie has his way, it'll be 1. You have to have an option to be able to reduce that and get out of that. So I want to do a real quick comparison. Take a look here. Exchanging without a CRUT. Let's say you have $1 million. Your federal taxes if you're single is $329, $429. If you're married, it's $297, $236. So essentially, you have about between $670,000 and $702,000 to be able to invest. We don't know what the state, county, city taxes are, but essentially half of what you earned is going to be gone. And any gains from the investment after paying are still subject to more taxes. So if you invested into something and it has a gain, you get taxed again. Whereas with the CRUT, that $1 million goes in there, there's no tax. None. Okay? You get to invest the whole schmear. The entire $1 million, not half, and all the thing that goes on inside of it is tax-free. Well, at 5% that you're pulling off of it over a 20-year time frame, if you're single, you only paid $85,000 in taxes, not $329,000 in taxes. And if you're married, you only pay $51,000, not $297,000. Your city, county, city tax, they're all going to be a lot less, and 100% of that $1 million went into investments in the future, which are tax-free. So by using the CRUT, here's what you save. Being single, you save $243,000, and if you're married, you save $245,000. Essentially, that's $250,000 back in your pocket. This is why I've been singing this for a long time, guys. This is a big answer to a lot of things that are going on out there. So I want to throw one final note on estate planning. When large windfalls happen, which is what we're looking at happening to us here, okay, some of the aspects of estate planning get lost. And so estate taxes apply to the remaining balance of your estate once you and your spouse pass away. Now this percentage currently is 40%. They want to take it to 45%. That's also in the Green Book, which I didn't show you. The cap is usually established by each new administration. It can be subject to wide swings in the value. For example, a cap on the new estate would be $12 million or $24 for the two of you. And then if your estate, which is all your ownings, real estate, businesses, equipment, jewelry, accounts, etc., is valued less than the current cap, then you don't have much to worry about. But when the current cap expires in 2025, it goes to 6 or 12 if you're married. And if the current administration gets what they want, it'll be $3 million, $6 million if you're married. Can you see the huge differences? Now, I'm not going to be able to sit here and say, I think that the Democrats are going to win the November elections. I can't say that. I hope that's not going to be true. I prefer that it's not. But if it is, you can count on this is what they're going to bring to the table. Now, this is where your gifting assignments also come into play. So creating those documents before the game And assigning individuals and the amounts prior can reduce the estate value. That's important. These are easy to create and store. You already know that, and in the end, you may not need them. But it's better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them. So, guys, this is where the rubber meets the freaking road. Our investment has been around now for 20 years, playing around in the IQD world. The only noticeable change was in December of 2020 when it dropped by 20%. Diversifying our portfolio based on criteria that meets our personal investment plan is very, very important. Many IQD holders have made this peculiar instrument their one and only retirement option. Believe me, I have talked to thousands of IQD holders, and there are some that just hold on to a single note and pray that it's going to come to fruition, that's going to be their only salvation, to be able to get something that's going to give them a secure retirement. While the IQD is still a valid opportunity, it should be considered something that's called a shoebox investment, and not the entirety that many have placed it at. So to show you how I'm saying that, I want you to take a look at some comparable options. This is kind of interesting. Here's the IQD strategy. Okay? Each investment's got three parts: research, tax strategies, and acquisitions. I introduced that earlier. So the research, the IQD, has the potential of approximately 1,000%. Now, if it goes all the way to $3 and something, that would be a 3,000% gain. But right now we're looking at 1,000% gain. It's considered ordinary income. The odds are moderate within the next few years, and no activity trading. Does not qualify for favorable tax consideration. Why? Because it's ordinary income. We don't gain a big blessing out of it. The tax strategies, when we apply all the filters that I just got through talking about, you can create the Roth for that personal tax-free gains. You can complete the gifting assignments to reduce the potential estate taxes, which we know are going to change. And you can complete the CRUT documents to create that lifetime of income, get that charitable legacy and potential private foundation for heirs. So that's a good strategy right there. And the acquisition, that's not so hard. You purchase directly from private or commercial sources for personal or CRUT purposes, and then you purchase via custodian service for precious metal Roth, or directly from qualified sources for a one-member self-directed Roth. Now, once you put this particular investment through the funnel, I'm telling you it should be considered a shoebox investment. Just that simple. And you put it away, and you leave it alone. Why? Because there's no flexibility. There's no moving here. There's nothing. We are waiting. We are waiting for that moment when the fruition is going to come to this thing. But spending any more money and time on it isn't going to be of any value. Let's take a look at the cryptocurrency strategy, just as another one. Same three things: research, tax strategy, acquisitions. The research, now it has the potential of 100,000 times gain. 100,000 times, not 1,000 times, 100,000 times. It's considered capital gains. It's got a much better tax option. The odds are high return in the next few years because we're in that bear market at the moment, and active trading at this time. This trades 24/7 every day. There's no stopping it. The tax strategies, that's easy. You can create a Roth, give you tax-free gains. You can complete the gifting assignments to reduce estate taxes, all in the same thing, and you can use a CRUT. It's doing exactly the same thing: lifetime income, potential private foundation for heirs. The acquisition of it, you purchase it from exchanges, or you can also buy it privately too. We'll talk about that later. You can purchase via custodial service for a crypto Roth, and purchase directly from qualified exchange for one-member self-directed IRAs. Now, the Bitcoin, I'm going to show just as an example, has true market volatility, and it has increased 93,000 times in the past 12 years. So what do we do from here? Your IQD is still considered a potentially viable investment, but not a principal one. It can't be. You should strongly consider diversifying your investments, including options with activity. You could consider an idea of expanding your investment options without losing any funds. I can show you how. Your IQD on hand is viable for your CRUT options. You may want to reconsider it as your one and only investment as an IQD, or the possibility of reducing your IQD holdings and spread out your portfolio into active investments. Now, a plausible, I'm going to say this very carefully, this is not a recommendation from MaxPlans or Rocket Enrich. Idea could retain about 5 million IQD in a Roth or on hand. Sell the rest of it in open market. Don't sell it to the dealers. You're going to take a 40% hit. Consider establishing a crypto Roth where the rules still apply for aging and contribution income caps, and then learn how to move your IQD from a precious metal Roth to a crypto Roth, possibly purchasing more IQD with the gains from these other investments. So let's just say you pull some out, you exchange it, you put it into a crypto, and you regain that funding. You can always buy more. You can always buy more. Now, this may seem to fly in the face of all the time and the money that we've invested into the IQD, but there really is something here that deserves to have your attention. I'm going to make this simple. The IQD, very little movement over 20 years. Bitcoin, lots of movement in 12 years. So first things first. First thing, you got to clean up your IQD investment strategies before you put it to bed. So do your gifting assignments and put them away. Consider a Roth. If you qualify for it and you want to do it, either as a precious metal or a one-member LLC. Complete the CRUT documents. These things can handle any investment. This is why David and I chose to do the CRUT, not the CRAT, not any other one, this one. Why? Because you can put anything into it. Anything. And the other thing is, it doesn't have a time term in it. These documents are powerful and useful for yet decades to come. Number 2, decide how much IQD you want to leave in your portfolio. You can always retain some on hand for the CRUT or an immediate exchange. How much to put in a Roth deserves to be reviewed due to the cost, and then consider selling some of your IQD in the open market, like eBay. Step 3, learn more about other options for passive or active income. As a suggestion, you may consider taking advantage of the reduced rate that's available right now in Rocket Enrich. Now, please understand, guys, I moved myself into Rocket Enrich because I know there's more out there. I can't do it under MaxPlans. I can't give it to you underneath MaxPlans. MaxPlans is a specific company with specific things owned by an attorney. But in Rocket Enrich, I can show you lots of things. I've been writing up a lot of stuff. Seek professional assistance from a financial planner. Don't be afraid to do that. That's what's really cool. You're not talking about the IQD. You're talking about real money, real investments. They'll pay attention to you. Now, here's the scariest thought of all, and I know I'm going to run into flack on this one, but tough. You got to learn to let go. Now, we've become addicted to the IQD option. We have. I always talk about fear and greed. I talk about how that's the lifeblood of our existence is our emotions. That's what does it. And the whole IQ thing has been built entirely on conspiracy theories and emotions. Very little has been given to policy. This is why Tony stands out as being the man. Okay? He doesn't fool around with this stuff. And so being able to say, I need to exchange what was for what is can be very challenging. But my invitation is, do it. Do it. Now, MaxPlan strategies can be applied to any investment. It doesn't matter what it is, okay? That's why we created it. It's to be available for any kind of application you can find. And we offer 4 things, okay? This the unlimited gifting assignments, which we've been charging $100 for. It's used to reduce potential estate taxes, okay? Its unlimited digital documents are stored in PDF files and used as needed. The Roth options, which we've been charging $500 with instructions and links for the precious metal for exotics and one-member LLCs. Also, crypto Roths. And then charitable remainder unit trust documents for $2,500. Now, these are usable in anything, not just the IQD. This is why I love this particular one. You can get lifetime of income, annuity with health and death benefits, use for a private foundation. All of that sits right there. And it negates out what the estate thing can do to you. And the website, which we have continuing education and webinars, you know I've made a lot of changes there. I keep putting new blogs in. I don't know if you notice it or not, but I put a new blog in every week. estate planning, crypto investing and taxes, resources, all of that's included there on our website. Now, what I'm doing this month, okay, and this is September, David has agreed, we're going to do it at 25% off. So this is the month to get things done. Now, I'm telling you this because what I want you to do is I want you to clean up your IQD investment. Clean it up. So right now, you can get the gifting assignments for $75. You can get your Roth options for $375, and you can get a CRUT for $1875. Those are usually $5,000, guys, and usually we charge $2,500 for them. Whew, I know it's a lot to take in, okay? And all these options are applicable to any investment you want to add down further down the road. With 25% off, okay, there may not be another opportunity like this. And my invitation is to take a look at it because this is a very real discount. To enroll in MaxPlans, simply follow the instructions that your follow-up email is going to be sending out later on this evening. And remember, if you can't get an appointment with me, you can contact Kina with the links from the email. Now we're going to step into another regiment. We're going to talk about Rocket Enrich. And Ron and I have been creating courses and blogs and connections for our members with some really great information. And more importantly, we have a great connection for a crypto Roth, one that's not available anywhere else. And I'm going to have Ron step in here in just a moment, and I'm going to have him show that to you. So I'm going to let it go. Ron, you want to pop on?
I've unmuted, and I think you just need to share screen a little bit.
I do. I'm going to do that now.
All right, folks, while he's doing that and bringing it up, you just got a world-class education, and it's ahead of the times. You know, you've got a lot of tax laws changing. You know, he just went through some very important things for us. So listen to it again and try to digest what's going on there. And Tony, as always, has done a great job. I want to make sure I get through what I need to talk about as fast as possible. Yeah, okay. As fast as possible. So Rocket Enrich, really what this is about is we conceive this as, you know, we want to enrich lives and we're going to do it through education. So going forward, there will still be webinars that we'll do and great information there, but really a lot of meat on the bones of the curriculum and the courses that we will be providing to members is going to be behind this website here. So basically, I just wanted, and Bob touched on this. I fear, as he does, that many of us have taken, or too many of us, I guess, have taken a big chunk of money, representatively, I guess, and said, you know what, I can 1,000 times percent get a return like that on this wonderful investment, and it should happen, you know, very quickly, and then look at all the things I can do with my life. Well, it hasn't panned out that way. And so this little chart here is, I want to make sure that people are considering good financial foundations in their investments. And it changes over time from, you know, earlier in life, how aggressive you can get into these different baskets of assets, to where you get closer to retirement, needs to change, and then into retirement. Again, you might need to make some allocation changes to your investment portfolio. So this IQD and even cryptocurrencies are the yellow box. They're alternative investments. You can see that's always a smaller portion that should be of your overall portfolio, but it can be significant. A lot of them, because of the newness of cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of financial planners that are saying, you know, no more than 5% in that type of a speculative or you know, new asset class. And so it's personal opinion about maybe how much you feel comfortable getting into an investment like cryptocurrency that has big swings, both good and bad. Okay, so Bob showed you a chart about how good it's been, but it's had times during that 20 or so years or 12 years that it's been bad too. So big swings. This chart here is something that you can Google it. It's called the Wall Street Cheat Sheet. and it's really about the psychology of markets. So this is putting people into the investment cycles. Okay, it's the emotions that they go through. Okay, and it doesn't matter what market is, it tends to follow. Okay, and so it starts with on the left-hand side, disbelief. This rally is going to fail, and I shouldn't get in. Okay, and then there's some hope when it starts climbing. Possibly this is going to recover, and then you get optimistic the further it goes, and then you hit belief, and then you get thrilled, and you get euphoria, and then all of a sudden it pulls back a little bit, and there's some complacency. Say it's cooling off, but the next rally is coming, and then you get a little anxious or anxiety because it's really starting to tank on you, and then you get into denial. So these are all great companies, or I believe in, Bitcoin or whatever it is, whatever market, and you're just in denial, and it keeps falling. Then you get panicked, and then you finally says, I got to get out. I can't lose anymore. And then it goes through a capitulation period of time, where you just get scared, you're angry, you don't want to, ever do that again. You get depressed, and then all of a sudden it starts climbing again as you're watching it, and there's some disbelief. Says, I'm not going to do this again. So you hold out, and you hold out, you get hope, optimism. You see this psychology, this emotion that you go through. Well, that's what I would say retail investors go through, that kind of psychology or those emotions in investments. Smart money does the exact opposite. When are they buying? They're buying when everybody else is depressed. They have a little bit longer view of trading and investing, and when all of this optimism and belief and thrill and euphoria is happening, you are providing the exit, the other side of that trade for the smart money. They need to get out of their positions, and you're quite willing to take it as retail investors. And so you just got to understand, you almost have to flip it absolutely upside down if you want to follow smart money versus just the street money. So I've taken that same chart now, and right above this is actually every one of those bars, the red and the green bars, are weekly charts. So there's a total of 1 week of activity that's happening inside that bar. And I won't go into how, a candlestick and how it works. I just want you to look at the chart below. We just went over, and consider that's each bar is a week, and so this has been a good amount of time, and this is the Bitcoin chart. Okay, so just take a look at the picture and tell me, where do you think we are right now in Bitcoin? Okay, there's a lot of people that are probably angry. They've lost a bit. They followed it all the way down, and there's some capitulation that's probably likely going to happen. There's going to be some depression, and when it finally starts going up, a lot of people will just disbelieve it, and then this whole cycle is going to go through again. So when do we want to start getting into Bitcoin? And I would suggest that now is not a bad time at all. So let's take a look at it and say, Ron, have we missed the boat? I mean, Bitcoin, there's a lot of money been made. Did I miss it? Okay. And based on cycles, you didn't. And let's go over this chart that I've mocked up. If you go back to the date that I've got there, January of 2012, and then you run the numbers to the all-time high, which was in November of 2021, it's been 93,700% return. It's with some change there. And you say to yourself, well, geez, can't do that again. That's crazy. I mean, Bitcoin has been the fastest multiplying asset ever on the planet, okay, or at least in recent times. And so now you say, well, it's fallen way back down. Was it a bad investment? Well, even right now, current September, 25,000% return if you bought back in January 12th of 2012. So not a bad investment, even if you held it through this last drop. Okay? So you can say again, have we missed it? Well, let's talk about what we're bringing to the table with Rocket Enrich. And one of the lessons that I'm working on right now, the courses, is the crypto Roth IRA that Bob just mentioned a minute ago. It took a little while to get this in place, and the course is still not quite complete. I'm waiting for a few more graphics and things to get put in place, but that should be very soon that'll be ready to go. And again, this is step-by-step on how to implement this. What we were able to get done was it's a cryptocurrency IRA and a non-IRA custodial accounts. So you can either do, Roth IRA or non, and there will be no setup fee, no account maintenance fee, and no storage fee. And let me tell you, guys, this storage is cold storage. And so that means that it's not out on an exchange, can't be lost. And then also the trading transactions are some of the lowest really out there for this type of an account. So we're quite excited about that, and you'll learn more about it in the lesson inside Rocket Enrich. These are some of a list of coins that would be available to be purchased and held inside this crypto Roth IRA. Look at these percentages over here. Now this is, I've done a chart on each of these, and this is just an assumption that says, if I invested now, okay, and this coin or this token, if it rises to its former all-time high, okay, that's recent all-time high, what would be the gain? Well, their gains are 650, 1,065, 1,596, so some decent sized returns that can happen. So why would you want to have this type of returns or potential returns inside the Roth to protect all that from taxes versus getting these kind of returns just out in a non-Roth environment? So we're rivaling kind of returns that I expect to happen in the next bull run. We don't know exactly when that might start, but we are certainly at the tail end of a bear run on these cryptocurrencies, and so these are some of the types of returns. You would, inside the lesson, the curriculum, you would have an active sheet like this. And so let's take Bitcoin, for instance. You'll be able to click into it and go into, do some more research on Bitcoin. It's going over to CoinMarketCap, and from here you're able to read all about it, including a nice summary of Bitcoin. What is it? You can read more right here and understand really what the investment is on each one of these coins. Okay, and so let's come back here. The next one is the Bitcoin chart. So if you go here and hit chart, this is what I'm talking. So Bitcoin, a 225% gain from now to its previous all-time high, which was not too long ago. It's not a long wait, but we're about to, at some stage, retest that all-time high. Now, that's not a bad gain. Some of the other ones, just to their recent all-time highs, are even greater than this one. But I don't believe, it's not proven out historically, that they will stop on this next bull run at just reaching their all-time highs. This is an example back here. That was an all-time high. And yet, after this capitulation, it still made a great gain again. So I'm suggesting that it will be kind of at the 225% plus type opportunity that's coming upon us. So let's come back to here, and let's get this out of the way again for a moment. Oh, you know what? I think I want to bring this one up. Okay, so now let's say it goes to where I believe the next run is going to wind up. Don't know how long it will take, but I'm projecting 250,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, now if that were to happen, starting from today's price, you'll have a 1,127% gain on your investment. Okay, we can say that is crazy, Ron. That can't happen again, right? Well, when did it happen last time? During this last run that started in March of 20. Okay, well, it went and hit its all-time high here in April of 2021. Okay, so a year. And how far did it run? It ran 178%. So will it happen again? Yes. It happened before, and it happened again down here in 2017. So 1,000% return in Bitcoin, and even larger ones potentially in some of these other cryptocurrencies, is plausible. Okay, so it's a very active fluid. What you don't want to do is hold on to it because you believe it's never going to fall again, because traditionally they are going to pull back as much as 80 or 90% of its gains. And you see by the time it got over here, you'd lost quite a bit of all of the gains if you held it through this whole time. So understanding the cycles, the psychology, the Wall Street cheat sheet, knowing when to go ahead and get back into cash is all really, really important. But the gains, you just can't beat the gains really out there. So let me just come back to this real fast, and I need to try to wrap up because we want to get Tony back on here. Rocket Enrich, this is the landing page for it. This is where we're going to put a lot of really, really good material. We continue to work on it. We're grateful for those who've joined us already. It's been launched, and it's doesn't nearly have the library that it's going to be having, and so that's why we're given some great discounts on joining us early. So what is the discount? Normally it's $228 a year for membership for the courses, and there's multiple courses. They'll be continuing to be added, and you'll receive all of them. It's now just $99 for MaxPlans. So those who would like to jump on board, we welcome you, and we'll continue to add content as we go along. So with that, Bob, I think that's all I wanted to really cover quickly. Oh, actually, there's one more. Let me bring up, because it actually is the chart, the dollar chart. We had some discussion earlier, and I am going to bring the dollar chart right here. Okay. So right now the dollar is at $1.09, almost $1.10. Okay. Where has the dollar been? Okay. It's been as high as $1.64. Where might the dollar go? In my estimation, we have enough room clear up to this level here. So in the $1.20 range, potentially. Now, how would it get up there? Just like we've been talking about here. The dollar is the strongest currency out there. And when rough times are going, really people are not going to gold as much as they will be moving into the dollar. The dollar worldwide will be the dominant haven for during turbulent times. And so those people who believe the dollar is about to crash, well, Tony will tell you what he thinks about those people. Anyway, that's my wrap up there, Bob, if you want to take over again.
Okay, you should be back to seeing my screen that says conclusion. Do you see that, Ron?
I'm trying to see it. Let me see.
Open your eyes.
Over to my. Alrighty, I got to close out of this. Hang on a second. I'm not sure if I see it. Where are you at?
Oh, I'm here. Anybody else see my screen? Can you see where it says conclusion?
No.
No. Okay, hold still, Ron.
Okay. You gotta kill me.
I'm trying. Switch presenters. Yes. No, I don't want to do that. I want to cancel yours. And request control. Yes. Okay, you should see it now.
Oh, I've got to continue.
Anybody else see it yet?
No, you're showing me again because I accepted again. So you got to kill me one more time.
You know what's interesting, Ron, is that every time I try to do this, you keep skipping all over to my screen. I have a hard time chasing you down. Stop control. Okay, I should have control now. Can people see my screen? Speak up, people.
No.
I still don't see it. No.
Still not yet.
I need to do something. Let me do something here. Let me stop sharing. Let me take control. See if I can stop sharing my screen.
All right.
No.
Not yet, huh? Okay.
I've released it, so it should be where you can get it.
How about now?
No.
Not yet.
Soon. Soon.
Ron, go ahead and jump out. Just close out completely. And then come back in.
Looks like a Brady Bunch, the beginning of the Brady Bunch show.
Oh, for those of us who can remember the Brady Bunch, okay. All righty. You should be able to see it now, and if not, oh, I know why. Dang it, I got to hit the share button. How about now? Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All
You're
right,
good.
folks. Thank you. All right. We're going to jump back into talking to Tony here in just a few minutes. I'm sure grateful. Originally, Tony wasn't going to be able to be here for the whole entire thing. And I was great. He called me just a little bit ahead of time and said, yeah, he would be able to make it. And I'm always grateful to have Tony on the calls because he brings a certain level of consistency into our view of what's going on. But what I wanted to do tonight was just offer you the opportunity to really seriously take a look at your IQD investment. Make a determination if it's working the way you want it to work, or are you open to the possibility that maybe using those exact same funds, so it doesn't cost you anything more, you can do something more. So there's options out there that are more available that can do right now for us. And the other part that's so cool is they don't cost us anything. They don't cost us anything at all. See, I know that Ron talked about his course that he's just finishing up on crypto and the ability to be able to do more inside that course. Well, I happen to know what's in that course. I also know that we have a very unique relationship with an IRA option that costs nothing to get into. And it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's not even available the rest of the places. This is so cool. And the other thing is, I know that I've been writing a lot. I just finished 2 classes. There are courses that are in there. One is on taxation for cryptocurrencies, and I go into a lot of detail on that one. And the next one I did is the ins and outs of the Iraqi dinar. So I have a detailed history of Iraq and their currencies and what happened recently and what you can take a look at. And then details on how to move it from one type of a Roth into another. It has the details in it. Okay? And I'm working on another one now. I'm currently writing a book. After Tony's been hounding me for I don't know how long to write a book. And so I am. I'm writing a book called Blockchain Taxology. And so it's going to be something that will be of great value later on down the road. So I'm going to open up the floor here in just a few minutes. And like I said, we're not going to do what I'm trying to do because I can't get that cotton picking question and answer part to work. So we're going to do what we've done in the past. Simply, take your phone, *6, or click your microphone and be able to turn it on your computer, and we'll go from there. Now, I will tell you that obviously this recording will be made available tonight. You will receive an email shortly. I get this new system is going to send it out to you, and it's got all the links to everything else that's inside of it. And my invitation is to seriously take a look at joining up with it, Rocket Enrich, because we're going to take this to a whole different level, guys. I mean, the IQD, I have loved it, and I love being of service to you in teaching and showing you the options that are available to be able to do more with this, but I want to do more. And the other part of it is, quite frankly, I'm 70 years old. And if I don't do what I want to do now, I'm not going to get it done. And what I want to do is I want to teach. I want to show you that there are ways to be able to successfully work and manipulate and get through these investment options and understand the taxation to it. So I'm going to do another webinar in November. I'll announce the date later on. And I want to take a special note and thank you to Tony and Kina and Ron for their assistance this evening. And I'm going to open the floor up. But first, I want to show you this. This is we had some friends from Salt Lake come, and they know I'm writing this book, and they found this shirt, and it's let's eat, comma, Bob, or let's eat Bob, and the difference between the two is just a comma. And I've had a lot of fun learning new grammar in the last little while. All right, we're going to open the floor. Tony, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Bob?
Yep, you got the buzz.
Oh, okay, here. Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Unhook power.
Excellent.
So I'll ask questions as long as you want. I'm at the mercy of Bob, and I'm here, you guys.
We have about 20 minutes left to be able to play with this evening, so who wants to go first?
I do.
Go for it.
Tony, what's the latest out of the Central Bank of Iraq?
Central Bank of Iraq is pushing their policy. The exact language that they use is pushing legislature and banks to be SWIFT compliant. That's it. That's the language coming out of the CBI. They have one goal and one goal only. Remember that at the very beginning, Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Planning, and Parliament got together, and first they went to the CBI and said, hey, can you manage and get our currency back to around the $3 range? And then all four of those entities went to the IMF and said, look, we understand how the world works. We understand where the dollar's at. We understand, is there a path to where we can get the loans that we're getting from you? Can we get our currency back to 3+? And it's never changed. That, it's just simply never changed. So
what is the central bank's position on the of the government of Iraq?
They're fine with it. Like I said, it's kind of interesting because I keep telling people that there's no difference between the Sunni and the Shia. They're definitely fighting for control, but how they treat the currency is exactly the same. And the evidence of that is that the CBI has never changed its policies ever.
Okay, one last thing, and I'll let you go.
Sure.
The government of Iraq under the Tsarist regime, where are they, and how close are they to completing a full government? So they have a government. Because the banks,
I wouldn't know. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't know that, but I just know that it's like the United States, right? You have the Republicans, you have the Democrats. We're both trying to expand the markets. It's just, how is it going to be done? It's a completely different venue. And so why is that, though? Real quick, just why is that? Most conservative Republican entities own oil wells. We own technology. Democrats don't have that. So they're trying to replace it with theirs, which is green energy. But they're still trying to expand their markets. They're not trying to get rid of markets. The transition, the fight between the people at the top, you and I get hurt, but the people at the top don't. It's that transition. So if you realize that there is no moral ground for either side, it's just pure propaganda. You know what I mean? But what are they trying to do? The Democrats are trying to gain power and control, but they control of their version of energy, and anybody outside of that is evil and probably a child molester. And then you have the Republicans, the more conservatives, that if you go look, all these companies down in Texas and stuff like that, most of them are ran by conservatives. So it's you have the conservative, Protestant conservative right in the United States. There's about 63 million of them, of us, and we're the most powerful people on the planet. And so you got different people coming. Russians are coming at the conservatives, the neocons, and the globalists. But what are they trying to sell? The same shit that we're selling. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Once you start breaking it down, it doesn't make any sense. So that's what I mean. And it ties in with what's going on with Iraq. They're both after the same thing. literally after the same thing. It just, you got to get through this. You know, we've been doing it for 10,000 years, pointing fingers. You know, all the wars in the Middle East, you have two sides fighting for the same thing. You have the exact same envy, the exact same desire, but one's evil, one's good. Does that make sense to you? You know, it doesn't. In the end, and if you're a big boy and you start looking at it correctly, you know, it's hogwash. People are worried about stuff that doesn't exist, and they're overthinking it. And once you start breaking this stuff down, it's just simple competition, and they're all fighting for the same thing. So, you know, it's very interesting what Bob's talking about tonight, because he's talking about different tax routes, and based on if the Democrats get voted in or if the Republicans get voted in. Democrats don't have the type of because Republicans are, you know, as far as business goes, you know, you have the mom and pop businesses and stuff like that. Democrats don't have that. So what do they need? They need our tax money to propagate what they need to do to take over. So they're more into taxes. That's where it's coming from. The rest, what they believe is like, oh, it should all be shared. It's all crap. Everybody's trying to expand their markets. Once you figure that out, the world is easy. The world is easy.
Well, all I know is that the government has not been formed, and the CBI will not do anything of any sort until there is a operating government in the country of Iraq. So far, the parliament they're trying to dissolve parliament completely, and they're having a hard time getting anything done. So,
we'll see here. Remember, you know, it's like, oh my God, they're gonna dissolve parliament, and I don't believe that. The CBI doesn't have any options. Yes, they do have options. Mm-hmm. And but in the end, what does both sides want? They want to expand their markets. Mm-hmm. They got to have money to do it. Well, they know they know the currency's artificially been inflated. They know the solution. So, you know, that's what I was talking about earlier. Don't look at what's going on between the Sunni and the Shia and the turmoil going on in the parliament. Both sides have the same problem, and both sides have their answers is the exact same thing, and that's all you need to worry about. We're sitting in a very, very good position. It's not going backwards, it's going forward. They have to start creating solutions. Otherwise, people are just going to create chaos like you watch the, you know, what happened in Egypt and stuff like that, all the rebellions, and people just simply couldn't afford to feed themselves anymore. They get in that position, it doesn't matter who rules, Sunni or Shia. That's what they want to avoid. So sooner or later, something's going to cause them to start adding value to their currency.
Well, it's been over 20 years, and they're still having problems in their parliamentary and in their governmental positions. And they're still fighting. So shit.
Nobody said this was a get-rich-quick scheme. You had
right.
Yeah. You know, so that's what I said. You watch the fundamentals. That's why I started talking about this policy-wise, and then it's not 100%. It's 110% that they're going to add value to their currency, but it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. This isn't tied in with the apocalypse and the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening. So, you know, real quick, if you guys want to know, the Great Reset is the West. The Great Awakening is Russia and China and the multipolar world. So it's still the BRICS versus the Trilateral Commission. It's the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening. And what is the Great Reset? People are listening to the definition the enemy's giving. The Great Reset, it doesn't even exist. We're just trying to maintain our markets. They call that the Great Reset. They call themselves the Great Awakening. And what are they doing? They're accusing us of having this massive global market. Well, what was it that you want? Where the United States is being accused again and again. It's like, oh, they're a bunch of globalists. What the hell do you want? You want to not be a globalist? You want a smaller market? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But people in sling shit Tallahassee, America, they buy into all of it. You know, so it's very strange watching this stuff, the propaganda that goes out. people that read stuff just instantly believe it. And they don't realize they're being attacked. If the United States is not globalist, we're not expanding our markets, you're going to watch the dollar disappear. And they're cheering it on. So, but I don't, and saying that, going back to what you said, I don't see anything negative going on in Iraq. I just don't see it. As far as the dollar, or I'm sorry, the Iraqi dinar is concerned. Other stuff, you don't want civilization or their culture or their civilization, their community to be like that. But they have a lot of options. They can screw up, just like the United States can screw up a lot and still maintain its markets. Iraq has that room also because they have a resource that everybody needs. We're not living off solar panels and Teslas yet. You guys, it's a long ways. If you listen to the guys who run these companies, it's a long ways away. Elon Musk, you're looking at 60, 70 years on down the road. These aren't politicians. These are the people producing the products that everybody's saying that we're all going to get to. And they're saying 60, 70 years on down the road. So that's the reality of it all.
Well, maybe the UFOs will come down and land and sell us all green cheese, and everybody will be happy, right?
I'm waiting.
Thanks, Tony. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
DeAndre, go ahead.
Hey, Tony.
Hey.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Hey.
go ahead.
Which one? The gentleman?
Yeah.
Everyone who was first.
Yeah. DeAndre, you're going to be right after him, okay?
No problem.
Great. Thanks, Tony. Hey, at the beginning, if I understood correctly, you were saying that America has a chance to have a greater portion of the pie, and I think that would have to do with the fourth industrial revolution. How would we do that versus not? You were saying we could or could not get a greater portion of the pie. How would that play out, both sides of that?
Well, perfect question, and you can't imagine how happy I am you asking that, because if the whole situation, the reason China is in trouble is because their population is going to shrink. That means smaller markets, right? Even on the global scale, not just in China, but that means less and less potential customers for us too, if we're selling products. Okay? Same thing with Russia. Russia's population is shrinking. They took a big chunk of, even though they weren't Russians, but the Federation in 91. All right? So that's the position the world is in right now. Everybody has bad birth rates. Europe, bad birth rates. Germany, bad birth rates. So the thing about it is what type of market is left out there for the next 60 years, and then who has access to them? And that's where the fourth industrial revolution comes in, because you got these guys creating technology that it doesn't matter what the age is. So I have Starlink, right? I use Starlink, the internet. And you guys, I could be out in the middle of nowhere. So I've got this RV and this toy hauler, and I got solar panels on it. I'm testing all this stuff, and Bob, because I give reports to Bob, and I've got a split unit air conditioning on it that runs off solar and generators, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And I got faster internet than I had when I was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, one of the most high-tech areas you can live in. All right, that's a game changer. So if you look at it, if you were a general and you were looking at this stuff, and some of you have read the book, The Sovereign Individual, all right? It's Google. It is Amazon. It's these big giants. China has their versions of it, and they're trying to destroy our versions of it, because what are we going to do? We're going to expand our markets. And again, it's the evil United States expanding their markets versus the great and fantastic Chinese, or the even better, the Russian and their version of Jesus, and all that stuff tied into it. But the reality is expanding markets. So what's China's version of, they have Alibaba. They have their version of Google. They have their version of Twitter. It's TikTok. They have, and that's what people don't realize, that the reason all this negative stuff is coming out is because those markets are trying to expand. But why, though? If the world's going to shrink, if the populations are going to shrink, why are these guys so in the middle of this propaganda battle? Because they know what's coming down. You guys, no matter how the world demographics shrink, I told you guys that it's been predicted that the currency in the world is going to double by 2035. And it's because of the Internet of Things. And people always leave this out. People, unfortunately, they get tied up, like right now it's Ukraine and this president. And for some reason, people can't think beyond, this president's only going to be around for 4 years. And so what if he's around for 8 years? So I was giving counsel to Democrats when Trump was president. So the guy's going to be president for 4 years. And then he has to run again. It's not forever. You know, and for some reason Americans don't look past what they're into today. But the reality is the market's coming down the road. The Internet of Things is going to expand the markets. And you're going to have corporations that are making so much money that are so big. That's where that term, the sovereign individual, comes from. You're going from agricultural states to empires and it broke down the monarchies, and the monarchies broke down to states, and now it's breaking down to sovereign individuals, where you have corporations of people that have so much power because of the technology that they can control, and people have access to that product. That's the evolution that's coming down the road. So in the old world, it was agriculture. Who had the most agriculture, controlled the most agriculture? Those were what the wars were about, water and agriculture. Next was the Industrial Revolution. Who had the most productive countries? England invented. It was all invented in England, and they owned 50% of the world's GDP at one time. And then when we came along, we've only owned 25% of the world's GDP. That's because we open up the markets for everybody else. That's what our Navy guarantees. All right, the war right now is the war of information. And that has to do with Internet. It has to do with networks. It has to do with access to Internet. And the reason there's such a mega war, information war over it, it's because that market can just expand. Not everybody can buy the products that you and I sell. They're in Africa. They're in Europe. But once you get the Internet of Things involved, the markets are even though if the population is shrinking, you still have access to more customers. And that's why the future is so bright. It's completely opposite of what these guys are saying. So I think that's the kind of question that you're asking. Am I even close? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Great to hear you.
Sure. Thanks for. So you guys, there's a lot of room for growth and happiness going on, but you can't get tied up in between these giants using propaganda, these lies against each other, and it is targeted at you because they're trying to convince you. Just know where you're at. Know that you're the target because you're the most important thing. You know why? You're the customer, but they're lying. They're full of crap. They always have been. They always will be.
Okay, on that note, Deandra, go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing? I know it's been a minute since I talked with y'all. I took a break from it all for a while. I'm just logging back on, so I want to apologize ahead of time if you already answered it. Tony, I remember email came out, I want to say at the end of the last year, about a great year ahead for Iraq. And then beginning of the year, you put out audio, you saying they excited, they ready to do this thing. And then I think, I don't know, maybe a few months later, you were saying they're looking for the perfect storm. So I'm just confused. Where you according to they're saying where are we at? Huh?
Yeah, none of that's changed.
Okay, so I know it's still a few months left in this year, but where are we at right now? And I'm just asking not just for me, but for a couple of family members too that's in it.
Yeah, and the CBI has complete control of it. The CBI is just simply trying to make sure Iraq is SWIFT compliant, and they're still in the middle of doing that.
Okay.
That's it. Don't overthink it. Do not overthink it. It is just that. It's all it is.
Okay.
All righty.
All right.
Well,
Thanks.
we are at our 2-hour mark. I want to thank everybody for being here, your questions. Tony, thanks very much for staying on board with us, bro. It's kind of nice to have you around again.
Sure. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
All right, and like I said, we'll have another one coming up in November. We'll see you then.